Don't think about X's and O's, but think about what kind of people you want to develop, because that ultimately is where your program really begins.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Please believe it or not, I'm still a cream of the crop. I was just until the age of 18 on the charts. Wasn't even dreaming this far. Believe who you are, the sun doesn't even know it's a star.
Welcome to Early Retirement, the high school hoops coaching podcast. I'm Wayne Fletcher, a newly retired high school boys basketball coach who spent 10 seasons as a varsity head coach. I'm joined by my guy, Matt Leach, who is an aspiring head coach and was a senior captain during my very first season as a high school coach. Matt, how's it going?
Coach, what's up? What's going on to all the listeners? I know we have a couple different guest hosts here, new host, new early retired coach, man. It's good to be here. As Coach Fletcher said, I was a captain when Coach Fletcher first took over at Camp Hill High School his first year, and then went on to Robert Morris University after that and was a student manager for 4 years and really was able to learn a lot from a low major Division I program. So excited to be back in the area. And Coach Fletcher, thanks for reaching out, man. This is exciting. This is fun. This is new for both of us.
It is. It is. You know, when I thought about this endeavor, which we'll talk about in a minute, I knew I didn't want to do this by myself. And when I thought of who I wanted to do this with, you were the first person that I thought of. You know, when you play the point, when you're a point guard and you have that basketball mind, I knew that you were somebody that could bring something to this experience.
Appreciate it, man. I'm pumped. Yeah, it's exciting, man. I feel like this is season 4 technically of the early retirement pod, and I listened to your episode and a bunch. Last season was probably the first season I listened to, so I'm excited that we're able to keep it going. So shout out to Rock, shout out to Kevin, the original.
That is one of the things that I probably should do. As we are talking, obviously, if you are a loyal listener to the podcast, you would know that these voices here are a little bit different than the voices that you heard in the past. And so the original co-host, Kevin Shearer, he's unretired. He's back coaching girls basketball at Central York in Pennsylvania. And the mastermind, as Matt said, Rocky Paris, he's spending time expanding the My Jerseys brand. And, you know, speaking of My Jerseys, they are sponsoring today's episode. They do both team and individual digital replica jerseys. They always stand the test of time. I was their very first customer. I don't know if you know that, but I'm always telling people.
Okay,
very
I
first
didn't know
customer.
that.
Yes. And we use them for senior gifts ever since. So those of you out there who are interested in getting a My Jersey, visit myjerseydesigns.com and Rocky will take care of you. So, but with that being said, we're just here, you know, trying to keep this thing going, you know, just like the way they started it and trying to expand our reach along the way. As for me, as I said, I spent 10 years coaching high school basketball. I don't claim to be an expert in this thing we call coaching, but I can offer a perspective considering the experience I've had. I had the opportunity to coach Matt at a small school, Camp Hill High School in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. And then I moved on to coaching at a larger institution, Central Dauphin High School, which is in the 6A classification, largest classification in the state of Pennsylvania. And so we won some games. We had some successes.
Being humble, man. Being humble. You won some games.
We did all right. And, you know, depending on who's watching, it's all relative in regards to the winning.
True.
But I feel like our staff, we did well. We did well when we got you guys, and we did well at Central Dauphin. And so we'll talk more about it, I guess. But again, being able to offer a perspective, especially with today's topic, I don't know. I feel like I can help out a little bit.
I think you can help out more than just a little bit. Excited to get into it. You and I were going back and forth. Like, man, what do we talk about? What do we jump right into? They've covered so much first couple of seasons. And I felt like with, you know, rolling this back out in November, you know, tryouts wrapping up and the season, coaches not only like building their rosters, but talking about that classic, that first meeting, team meeting of the season, parent meeting, where it's like, this is what we're going to be about this season. These are the goals, X, Y, Z we want to accomplish, right? I like that what you did at Camp Hill, and it's interesting. You said you didn't necessarily focus on it too much at Camp Hill, but I felt like immediately you came in and you focused on, okay, this is a program that we're going to build, not just a year-to-year team, which that's not bad that coaches do that, right? You got to address what's in front of you for the 2025, 2026 season, whatever that is. But it's so important to build an overall program top to bottom. how do we establish culture? How do you establish standards and long-term vision so that you have long-term success? Like, like you really did at Central Dolphin. You were at Camp Hill a shorter time, but I'd like to for you to break down how did you really do that and build a program and set a standard or a culture, set various standards at Central Dolphin.
Man, that's a great question. I think, well, one, I thank you for not realizing that we didn't have a total plan at Camp Hill. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but the process of writing it down and having some words to go with it, I didn't have yet. And that allowed me, those experiences allowed me to do this when I went to Central Dolphin. And so when I sat down, I thought to myself, what kind of program did I want to build? Right. And it wasn't about X's and O's. I started with the question, what do we want to be known for? And when you move into those spaces and there are more eyes, there are more media, there are more everything, there's more
Yep, sure.
scrutiny.
Sure.
My vision for the program needed to be clear. Okay. And we wanted to make sure that our vision statement wasn't just words that we put on the wall, but we wanted it to be the compass that literally moved our program in the direction that we wanted to move it. And so that's where we were. That's where we started. And actually, I'm going to read to
Yeah.
you the vision statement.
I was just gonna ask. Yep, yep.
Yeah. So, vision statement says to be a championship caliber program that is the model for all other high school basketball programs in the state of Pennsylvania through our performance on the court, in the classroom, and in the community. That is where we started.
That's lofty. That's lofty. I think it might help. It helps me for sure, but I feel like it might help the listeners if we break it down a little bit, or have you break that down. I mean, the first thing being championship caliber program. What does that mean for you? What does championship caliber mean? Is that we're competing for a title every season, or I guess explain that a little more.
It's a great question. Well, I would like to have you note that it doesn't say win championships every year. So, championship caliber program to us was more about having a standard. It's about preparing, it's about competing, it's about carrying yourself in a way that gives us a chance to win at the highest level every single day. And winning every day doesn't just mean winning basketball games. It means winning in the classroom. It means winning in study hall. It means winning or being the best version of yourself as often as possible. And obviously with young men that are growing into who they want to become, we strive for every day knowing that we will fall short. But being a championship caliber program meant just having a mentality to give us the opportunity to be successful.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. High school being such a key for that. And then you have, I'm just breaking it kind of down bit by bit here. Is like you have the model for all other programs in the state of Pennsylvania. So, you kind of just touched on that, but maybe go into more detail of what that example looks like.
When we talk about the model for all the programs, it is lofty when you say the state of Pennsylvania. But from my perspective, I believe that if we did it right, if our mentality wasn't just about winning basketball games, even though winning basketball games are why they want us to be coaching. But if it was more than that, I knew that that could separate us. And so for our guys, it was more about how we acted, not necessarily how we played. It meant that our guys were known for how they handled themselves in tough moments and in success. It meant being the model in Pennsylvania for boys basketball programs, but even in our high school community, our sports teams at Central Dolphin High School are very successful. Our girls
Yeah.
programs, they're winning state championships left and right. And while there are sports teams in our school that set the bar very high, I believed that we could jump right in there, be the example of what good looks like in our community as well as in the state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. You just mentioned it because I then want to ask about that last part. You're talking about not only performance. You said on the court. It's kind of three different things: on the court, in the classroom, and in the community. Kind of break those down. More specifically, like okay, how do we want? Were there really specific expectations of grades in the classroom or behavior in the community? Were there what was that type of expectation like?
Uh, All of the above, man. It was all
Okay.
of the above. The classroom, the gym, and the community. Those were like the three pillars, so to speak. From my perspective, if we were only winning in one of them, we weren't really winning at all.
Mm,
And uh, in high school athletics, a lot of times the focus is so much on player development and those wins that are necessary as well. But to me, basketball is so much more important than that. And that is why, again, when I talk about being the model, I knew that if we focused on all of those pillars equally importantly, we could do a good job. And I think that especially when you talk about giving back to the community, when you talk about being an excellent in the classroom, not just eligible, but being excellent, that was
yeah.
always a focus. And in a minute, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the mission statement as well, because it gives a little bit more detail, but definitely doing very well in the classroom was very important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And then the mission statement, I like that you have both a vision statement and a mission statement because I feel like coaches, if coaches are listening to this, or if I think about man, like a program, hopefully that I take over a high school program down the road, and it's like I could easily make those into one. So I like that you have them separate. So go ahead and dive into the mission statement. We can break it down by some themes here, but I'll let you start it off a little bit.
Well, you just mentioned something that we didn't mention earlier. Guys, I'm the retired coach, not Matt. Matt is aspiring, right?
That's right. That's right.
He took a pause in his coaching life, which I don't know if you want to mention that real quick before we'll
Yeah,
take a
yeah,
pause real
that's
quick
true.
and speak to your coaching life and where you are at this point.
Yeah. So as I said, was a manager at Robert Morris for 4 years with Coach Andy Toole, if you know him. Joe Gallo, who's now at Merrimack, he was there at the time, and man, learned so much. Some crazy experience there for 4 years, and then moved back to Harrisburg in the 2021 area. Served as an assistant at Mechanicsburg for a year, and then at Cedar Cliff for a bit, and then I've been, like Coach Fletcher said, out of the game kind of last two and a half years. Had a baby. My wife and I live in the kind of Swatera Township area here, and we have a 1-year-old now. So yeah, excited to get back into it, and always trying to stay in touch with Coach Fletcher, with some other coaches. So it's great to be back around the game.
If when there are people out there listening, this dude is on the market. So he's just helping me out right now,
Yep, yep,
but
sure,
very much so. This is a great topic for you, and
exactly.
for coaches like you that are aspiring to really understand at least my perspective. Again, it's just mine, but our relationship allows you to understand a little bit more because I had an
Yeah,
opportunity to coach you, and we've been in touch this entire time, just talking basketball. And so,
yeah,
going
it's
back
the
to
best.
our mission, for me, it was about developing young men, not just basketball players, whole human beings. We lose that at times because of the pressures of the expectation, but developing a whole human being was very important to me. Leadership, accountability, maturity, all of those things came first. Basketball, as weird as it sounds, was secondary to those things when it came to our players. And so what basketball did was give us a platform to be able to teach those kinds of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. And then they all kind of lead one into the next. Like I like that essentially it feels like your mission statement is a breakdown or more detailed version of your vision statement. Here you have, we will do this by being selfless, by investing in the common good of the team, and by always seeking to improve. And we'll stop there. But I like the selflessness aspect that you touch on, and a team first mindset. So what did that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, one thing is for sure, when you play a team sport, you should. I mean, you should. And
Should.
in today's time, especially when you have student athletes that are hoping to matriculate to the next level, sometimes that gets short sighted. But if you're not successful, coach is not going to recruit you. There are a lot of guys that are really good that could get you 30 and lose every game.
Yeah,
College coaches
facts.
don't want those kinds of guys. And so having the forethought of not only would I would like to create success for our players team wise, but if we develop them well enough, we would like to have some guys be able to play at the next level. And, in my 10 years, we've had over 20. in our
Man,
space
that
be
many?
able to.
That's wild, man. I really didn't realize it was that high. Not to gas you up, but
No,
I
and
mean,
I appreciate you taking that because as a coaching staff, the guys at Central Dolphin, we at the end, when I decided that I was going to step away, that was one of the things that we thought about. Like, wow, not only were we able to have some success, but we were able to develop guys well enough that they could continue their dream.
yeah,
And that is not necessarily what a high school coach does, but because our mission was so detailed, we were able to accomplish a lot of things. And so being selfless, investing in the common good of the team. For a couple years, the last couple of seasons, I was trained in restorative practices, and I can explain that another time. But
yeah,
we would have these restorative practices type circles at the end of every practice. And at the end of practice, we would debrief the practice and then we would address any issues that we needed to support each other. So if there was something going on in school, in the community, maybe one of our players was going through something at home, we
mm,
could sit and have real conversations. When they became heavier, we would sit down and we would make sure that we took the time to really be supportive of each other. And so that allowed this team idea to really solidify itself. And
that's
then
awesome.
yeah, it was cool. Again, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just, I took some things that I learned in my professional life as a high school teacher and I brought it to our gym. But in coaching, being able to communicate, acknowledge your teammates, all of that stuff is important. And so we built in at the end of every practice, when we would break, we would line up and every player and every coach and even our managers, we would high five every single person. So every day we got a chance to look every person in the eye and say good job or, pat them on the back and things like that. And it was important. It was fun. It became the thing that, again, as things get tough throughout courses of seasons, it allows us to stay together.
Yeah, for sure. And it feels like that leads right into the next part of your mission statement of saying appreciating the journey. So it sounds like even ending practices that way made guys focus, refocus, or reset, hit the reset button of like, hey, I'm appreciating this at the end of the day. Or man, I didn't know he was going through that. So I can appreciate where I'm at in this point of the season or at this point in my career. So I love that. Maybe dive deeper into appreciating the journey.
The journey is not always going to be rainbows and unicorns. And the idea of appreciating the journey is understanding that and knowing that there are many facets and phases to where we're going. And if we understood it and we looked forward to the lifting, the practices, the film, all of those things, and it was clear that there were going to be highs and there were going to be lows, it allowed us to build character. When tough times would come up, I would go around because tough times always come up.
Yep.
I would go
Yep.
around and I would tell them, nobody said it was going to be easy, but I promise you, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And that's because I knew that if they kept the main thing, they will wind up much better from the experience that we had together than they would have otherwise.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
it's just great. It creates such a closeness, that otherwise maybe wouldn't necessarily happen. So I like that was happening throughout the season. And then I think selfishly, this is one of my favorite parts, or if not my favorite part of your mission statement, is real uh, competition and accountability that will hold each other to on a daily basis. And specifically, I love that. I don't even tell you this, but I love that because and I think one of the biggest shifts when you came to Campbell, and then also when I went to Robert Morris, is I noticed that every drill, every you name it, every practice, everything about every practice was competition, and it definitely made everybody better. I mean, granted, like some near fist fights broke out a lot of times at RMU practices. This isn't anything probably that isn't any secret to any major program, but man, that culture of competition. So maybe elaborate on that a bit.
Competition, and it's a little bit different in high school and in college
Yeah,
because, college, especially at that level, you're on scholarship. And so they're
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much, and this is before NIL. So we would
True.
say you're still getting paid to do your sport. And so that in itself, there's a different mentality. But even in a high school setting, how else do you get better if we're not challenging each other? And it
Yeah.
was never about tearing anybody down, but if somebody is not as good as the starter in front of them, if they just accept that as such, then that person will never have the opportunity to get better. So, yes, everything. We competed at everything. One summer, I asked my daughter to spray paint some basketballs gold because the basketball is important.
Come
And
on. Yep.
so when we would do drills, we wanted to take care of the basketball. Turnovers are bad. And so each team will get 3 golden basketballs, and every time you turn the ball over, 1 goes away, and guess what? When you lose all 3, you're gonna pay a penalty for that, right?
Consequence. Yep.
I mean, it's
That's
what it
it.
is.
That's it.
Uh, but I had fun having golden basketballs, and when they would come out, we would roll the card out, and they were like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." It because that was over the summer. I looked at the stats from the year before, and we did not take care of the basketball. And
Mm,
so, how do I come up with a way to put us in a competitive situation where we could learn to take care of the basketball?
that's great.
Now,
That's
that
great.
is just one example of a lot of things that we did, but being able to keep a score, being able to put guys against each other in a competitive setting allowed us to continue to get better. But also know that even when we were competing, even though there were penalties when guys weren't successful, we always made it a point to praise effort and attitude
Yeah.
because
That's great.
yeah, that there's going to be times there could be a whole week that you wind up on a team and you don't win at all. You
Real
know,
stuff, man. Real stuff.
yeah, and but if you're getting after it and you're doing all of the things that are contributing to trying to help your team be successful, of course we're going to recognize that. And that's how you keep the closeness, that's how you keep guys from turning on each other.
Yeah.
But that's how you continue to move guys forward and continuing to be successful.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have next year, we will hold ourselves to the same level of academic expectations that we would hold ourselves to on the court and in every other aspect of life. Woo! That's heavy. So heavy academic expectations is definitely a theme here too. Do you want to unpack any of that bit, or does that kind of speak for itself?
Nah, I mean, yes, I want to unpack it because I don't I I said earlier today that we did have some success. We won some games, and you're like, ah, you're being humble. I'm not going to be humble about the academic achievements that we
Well,
accomplished
yeah,
over the time that we were there. And so, in my mind, if we can't compete in the classroom, we can't compete on the court. And this is not just about being eligible, this is about developing a whole young man. Okay. And if I have a kid that knows how to work hard, that knows how to deal with adversity, that knows how to do all of these things in the way of developing their basketball skills, they can take that same mentality and take it into the classroom. And they may not be the greatest writer, they may not be the
sure.
greatest understander of history, but if you know how to do things to create success in one area, you can take those skills and carry it over. And so we would always harp on that. So much so that if they didn't understand it, I would sit down with them and show them. This is how you
Wow,
do the thing. You want to come in early and work on your game. You want to work on your ball handling. You could do the same thing in study hall.
that's awesome.
You could go to math help. You could do all of that stuff.
It's awesome. You can get that extra
Yes.
help. Ask the teacher just like you're asking for a coach for extra work. Love that. Love that analogy.
I don't know that students do it enough, but at least we kind of, I don't want to say force, but we encourage guys to again to take those skills and transform over. And so what happened? The latter half of my time at Camp Hill, it became the norm when marking period grades came out, honors and distinguished honors. We always had majority guys
Awesome.
recipients of honor roll and distinguished honor roll.
It's
But the
awesome.
coolest thing is I have to say is the National Honor Society is, one of those organizations that is a pretty big deal if you can get inducted in. The last cycle through, we had 4 guys be recognized at one time. And for to be considered, you can't just be a good athlete. You can't just be a good student. There are 4 pillars of expectations that you have to meet at a high level to be able to be inducted into the National Honor Society. And we had 4 at one time. And
And
that is like wins are great and it's super fantastic. But guess what? 20 years, I don't know who's going to remember the wins, but
Right.
the academic success that those guys have set themselves up for will pay dividends down the road.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. For one time, let alone, have a guy here and there. I mean, it is. I mean, most coaches listening or most people listening to this probably understand that, but I am glad you emphasize that. I mean, it is not an easy thing to get inducted into, to qualify for. So, yeah, that's a huge, huge testament. You're right. Something to be
Thank you.
proud of.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you.
lastly, last sentence here to wrap up the mission statement we have is we will be positive stewards in the community through our commitment to service, being mentors to our youth. So that involvement in the community is a clear theme as well. What did you jump into? Like what who did you even reach out to? I guess how did you even start that process? Because I think about that as aspiring head coach and I think, man, okay, that would feel a little daunting or intimidating.
Well, I can tell you that our football program at our high school, they are, when I think of be the example of boys basketball programs in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm pretty sure when it comes to service, those dudes do it better than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And so I just watched. I watched, I observed, okay, what are they doing? Where are they going? And fortunately, we were in a situation where people reached out to us. Our guy Kirby reached out to us and said, "Hey, we have some families who need some help. Can you bring some guys over?" And that became a regular thing. Our guys, we get some guys up, we go over to the church, help at the food bank. And then people start to hear about it. We have camp. The kids come to basketball camp. They love our players. And then all of a sudden, principals are calling us from the elementary schools. Could you come in and work with our kids in this way? And in different ways, we wind up in different spaces. And
Mm,
our players understood because they could see it that their presence in our program meant that they represent something way bigger than themselves. So much so that there were young people watching them.
wow.
And when
Yeah.
we talk about being what good looks like, I said it earlier, we wanted to be what good looks like in our school. We want to be what good looks like in the entire state. Well, guess what? When you're good, when you're the example of what good looks like and you have young people watching you, it is the most amazing thing. And our guys begin to relish in that. They really appreciated the position that they were in. They appreciated that when they went to the food bank to help out and those families were appreciative of them being there. They started to ask, when we would hit a lull in
Yeah.
in the off season, are we doing something this week? By all means, we are. And so
Cool.
that
Wow.
that part was really fun.
That's awesome. And it just sounds like yeah, and I know you're this type of guy, but for maybe people listening or who don't know you as well, like that's also some of your personality. You're like, I'm just gonna start building relationships here. Like you said, I'm watching what this team's doing. I'm just gonna start talking to people in the community. So that's a huge, huge aspect. Wow. Love that. Love
Thank
that.
you.
Much wraps your mission statement, but man, I mean, it's such a key important piece of starting a season, but not only starting a season, but just like this is who we are as our program, reminding your program. Don't care if it's your fourth year guys, right? Your seniors, your freshmen. You know, I like some coaches, and I know you do this, but it's like you meet with the middle school guys, and it's like this is our program top down, like
Mhm.
all the way through. So I love that this is really who you guys were, who Central Dolphin basketball was for however many years.
Yeah, well, it was 7 seasons, and when you say middle school, when we would have parent meetings before tryouts, we would share our vision and our mission, and so it was never a surprise as to what the expectation was across the board, and when you're there for 7 seasons, you wind up getting the waves of
Yeah,
middle schoolers that come up and come through, and the kids who once wanted to be the guy wound up being the guy.
yeah,
And
that's awesome.
it made it that much easier for them to transition. You know, our mission statement was more than just some words. It was our identity. And everything we did, whether it was practice plans, discipline, community events, always came back to those words. And that's I think that's my most proudest thing is that I had the forethought to do it this time. I was fortunate when I inherited you guys. We had a good crew of guys that were about making things happen, and so We learned together. It was a little crazy sometimes, but we got it done. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
from that experience, I was able to say, you know what? Let me sit down and let me think. And it took me a long time to come up with the right words to really become that compass. But when I look back and look at the time that I spent at Central Dolphin, I feel good about what we were able to do because of the plan that we set in place ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. That's awesome. It's so important to be able to add language. I like what you just said. You refer back to it throughout the season, middle of a practice, or you had a tough back to back games where you're struggling, you're in a lull. It's like remember who we are, remember who we aren't, remember who we are.
Mhm.
So the language sounds so important there. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap?
You said a couple things is referring back to it. We had a couple seasons that were a little bit challenging. And so one off season, we literally would go around and pick somebody. And it was just the vision. Mission statement is a little bit long.
Yeah.
But we would say, tell me what the vision statement is.
Mm,
And it got to the point where guys could recite the vision statement. And so if you
wow.
can do it, then you can act it and then it becomes you. And as we go down the road of expanding this podcast, we'll be able to expand more on some of the things that we were able to do in regards to the program building with the vision and mission statement. But I think ultimately, for someone like you, or even a coach like me who wasn't starting out but wanted to be more deliberate about what they wanted to offer a program, this is the thing I think you should do. Don't think about
Totally.
wins or losses. Don't think about X's and O's, but think about what kind of people you want to develop because that ultimately is where your program really begins.
Yep. Yep. Starts there. It's awesome. With an identity, I like that. This is our identity, who we are. Where can the people find us, Coach? I think this was an awesome first episode. As high school teams are starting their season, I'm
Yeah,
pumped. It's basketball season.
that's
We're
right.
back, baby. We
Yeah,
timed this up
buddy.
well,
Yes.
so I'm hype. Where can they follow us? Subscribe, socials, all the things.
Big thing. If you are this far into this episode, that means you probably appreciated it. Hit that like button, please. Right. So we know that you appreciated it. You can subscribe to us on all kinds of platforms, but I'm going to tell you SoundCloud, that is where Rocky and Coach Shearler, that's where they put the audio only version of this podcast. That is where it will continue to be. But because we now have the video part of it, you'll find
Let's
us on
go.
Spotify, YouTube channel we have, and we'll be on Apple Podcasts. Social media, follow us, Instagram, TikTok, X, also known as Twitter for us people from a
I
little
was
bit
gonna say,
older.
man, I still call it Twitter. I
I
still
know
do.
it's Twitter to me, but
Yep.
X for whoever else
Right.
needs
Right.
it to
Right.
be X, and even Facebook. Okay, so if you got some people my age and older, Facebook is the way to go. And I think in all of those spaces, leave us a comment
Yeah.
if
Please.
you agree, if you would disagree, if you have some ideas that we could use and address in future episodes. We may do that. If there is something that needs to be addressed right away, we can do that. I think Matt and I are both really excited about this opportunity. And so we will interact as much as you would like us to. And so whether it be in the social media world or us being able to provide you with more content, please give us a shout.
Love it. Excited for next episode. Excited for some guests this season. Coach Fletcher, you got a great slew of guests on deck, man. I'm pumped. I'm excited. So yeah, agreed. Echo everything you said, man.
Cool. Well, we won't keep you any longer. We are going to try to get these out twice a month, every other week if possible. And I know Rocky when they first started, they didn't want to set the standard of being weekly because that is a lot. But we would like to. We're so fired up. We're going for it. We're going to go for every other week for now. And if we can continue to get guests on, or if there's content that Matt and I can discuss that is interesting to you, we will keep doing this thing until no, we're just going to keep doing this thing. All right. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Share this with everyone, your friends, your family, parents, other
Yes.
coaches, players, whether they are about to be basketball players or have been players. Former players too will benefit from some
Mm-hmm.
of the content that we'll have out there. So everyone's invited to take part in the early retirement high school coaching podcast. Have a good one.